Bruh.
One eternity later.
Hey everyone, Wellfish here, age 5. I just got 10,000 golden eagles completely for free. What do you do with 10k GE? Well, of course, I spent it wisely. I bought some premium time, I bought a couple of talismans. I bought the Swiss Hunter. I have no regrets.
No, don't do it! No!
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit confused as to how I should approach this review, because if I'm completely honest, I think the Swiss Hunter is a rather boring aircraft. But in order to explain why I say that, let's first talk about the actual aircraft itself for a bit. In case you don't know, the Swiss Hunter is a rank 6 aircraft that sits at a battle rating of 9.7, and for some reason it was placed into the German tech tree. Why? Well, this is one of the few British aircraft in War Thunder that is actually very good, and as a result, Gaijin didn't want to put it into the British tech tree, because God forbid the British actually get something that's fun to use. In any case, this is the best Hunter in War Thunder. Not only does this aircraft get the airframe of a Hunter, aka not only is it a good dogfighter, it also gets access to flares as well as these missiles, which what is that? What does that even mean? They're AIM-9Js. These missiles are just AIM-9Js with a weird funky name. In any case, very good missiles for 9.7. As a result, not only is this the best Hunter in War Thunder, this is perhaps also just one of the best 9.7s in the game. It's not the best dogfighter around this battle rating. Something like the MiG-19 PT or the Ariete is definitely better at dogfighting than this thing is, but not by a massive margin. If anything, this plane is still one of the best energy fighters around this battle rating. But that's not necessarily the reason why this jet is good. In fact, some of you might even remember that the Hunter F.58 was removed as a premium because it was just terrible. And what's interesting is that the Hunter F.58 and the Swiss Hunter are effectively identical in terms of their airframe and their power plant. So when I say that the Swiss Hunter is one of the best 9.7s in the game, I'm not saying that because I think it's a very good dogfighter. I mean, of course that adds to the equation, but as I've showcased with my example of the Hunter F.58, clearly flight performance alone is not enough to make this plane great. If you ask me, it's the flares that make the Swiss Hunter actually any good. That's perhaps a bit of a confusing statement, because of course flares don't make the plane any faster, don't improve energy retention, stuff like that, but you have to keep in mind that battle rating 9.7 sees a lot of up tiers, and up tiers at 9.7 mean that you are going to be facing a lot of missile spam, which is a huge problem if you don't get flares, because no matter how good your flight performance is, it is still annoying to have to kinematically dodge something like an AIM-9L. Effectively what the flares allow the Swiss Hunter to do is just fully utilize every capability of the airframe, because it doesn't have to worry about having to kinematically dodge every missile that's fired at you. So in essence, the Swiss Hunter is an absolutely phenomenal aircraft, not just because it gets good flight performance and because it gets good weapons, but most importantly because it gets flares, which is essentially unheard of for aircraft around its battle rating, and as a result you end up with a plane that is just extremely powerful. And to give that claim a little bit of context, I currently have a win rate of well over 80% in this thing, with a KD that's well past 4. Now I know, my stats, but the thing is, my stats in the Swiss Hunter are actually not that good. If you look at other people playing the Swiss Hunter, you'll see people who've got a KD approaching 8. 8? What? I haven't played something this broken overpowered in a long time. And this is where everything gets a bit confusing, and where I'm going to transition into the second part of this video, because well, actually, I'm not sure if I would call this thing overpowered. I will absolutely not dispute that the Swiss Hunter is extremely good, and I also won't dispute that it could probably do just fine at 10.0. But in order to call something overpowered, I think it's important that you look into the context of why a certain aircraft is good. And in the case of the Swiss Hunter, it might not be what you think. At 9.7, the Swiss Hunter sees a lot, and I mean a lot of up tiers. Out of the 100 plus matches that I played in this jet, maybe only 2 were down tiers to 8.7. There were were a couple of down tiers to 9.3, but still, most of the matches you'll play in this jet are going to be either up tiers to 10.3 or 10.7. And against aircraft around those battle ratings, the Swiss Hunter really shouldn't be that good. Something like the MiG-21 SMT, the F-8E, the F-5E, the F-5C, those are all planes that can easily outperform the Swiss Hunter. Not necessarily because they are massively better at dogfighting, but more because they can dictate the engagement because, well, the Swiss Hunter kind of has the syndrome called everything can run away from you. So clearly, it's not that the Swiss Hunter is very good because it's fighting aircraft that are far worse than it. In fact, the Swiss Hunter is actually fighting aircraft that either match its performance or exceed it in one way or another. But then why is the Swiss Hunter doing so well, regardless of being constantly up-tiered? Simply put, ground attackers and premium spam. In case you don't know, a lot of people play aircraft around this battle rating not because those aircraft are good or fun to use, but because those aircraft help them to grind through their respective tech trees. As a result, most teams are filled with ground attackers, not with good fighters like the F-8E, and as a result, you really don't have to break a sweat to steamroll the entire enemy team using the Swiss Hunter. And essentially, that's why I got such good stats in this aircraft. It's not because the aircraft itself is very good, I mean, that is part of the equation like I said previously, but it's mainly because you're fighting aircraft that have no real chance to compete with this airframe. And remember how I said in the beginning of this video that I find the Swiss Hunter a bit boring? Well, this is why. Essentially what happens when you play the Swiss Hunter in an up tier is that you basically never get a dogfight. And when I say a dogfight, I mean a proper, fun 1v1 engagement with another enemy. Instead, what happened a lot to me whilst I was playing the Swiss Hunter is that I would just find an enemy and then I would kill them within the first 3 seconds of the engagement starting. Which is fun the first 15 times that you do it. It's enjoyable the first 100 times that you do it, but past that, I don't know, I just kind of got a bit bored of it and I would rather be doing something else. Don't get me wrong, there are still some 1v1 engagements to be had, and once you do find a proper 1v1 dogfight, it is a very, very fun experience. But again, it just doesn't happen all that much, at least not for me whilst I'm playing this aircraft. So, with all of that in mind, let's talk about whether or not it's worth your time to research the Swiss Hunter. Something I haven't mentioned at all in this video is that the Swiss Hunter is a squadron vehicle. That means that you can unlock this aircraft by being in a squadron and just playing the game normally. But because you can only unlock one squadron vehicle at a time, the question is, should you prioritize this one over all the other squadron vehicles? And in my mind, yes, absolutely. Especially if you are an ARB player, this is probably the best squadron vehicle that you can get your hands on. So again, yes, I absolutely recommend that you spend your squadron points trying to unlock this aircraft. And let's say that you're not yet in a squadron, but you still want to research this plane. Well, then I have some good news for you, because I thought it's finally time for me to make my own squadron. So if you're tired of typing El Bozo in the chat every time you kill an enemy, well then feel free to join the Discord server in the description and then apply to join my squadron. Because now instead of having to type El Bozo yourself, it will automatically appear in the kill feed every time you dunk on an A10. In any case, thank you for watching this video. Remember to subscribe, otherwise I'll steal your countermeasures. And goodbye.